Hi, I'm Daria. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about mobile apps. I started my indie journey while working a full-time job, and I think this is a common story for a lot of us. And one thing that unites us all is that we like time, budget, and product teams. That's why every technical decision that we make must be efficient, unless your developer soul is craving going down a deep technical rabbit hole, which I can totally understand. That's why today I want to share a set of tools, mostly plug and play SDKs, that have saved me a lot of resources, especially time. And you can think about them as perfect gifts for the upcoming new year. Let's start with the most obvious one, my choice of backend as a service. And it's Firebase. We have Sparky over here. The question of which backend as a service is the perfect provider keeps on popping up in my feed, but I've been building with Firebase for many years now, and honestly, it just keeps getting better. The documentation is solid, there's tons of community tutorials and resources, and it works perfectly with Flutter. Oh, also, I think I forgot to mention, but all of these SDKs are meant for Flutter because I work with Flutter, and some of them upcoming are only Flutter or Flutter specific. I've heard about Supabase, Pocketbase, Amplify, Appright, and I think they can be all great solutions, but I have never really had a reason for migrating from Firebase, so I have not tried them and I can't comment them. I use Firebase extensively, and if I would have to describe all of the services that I use, it would take not just a whole video, but a whole course, so that would be forever. But I just wanted to mention a couple of those that I use, I guess, the most. And the first one is obviously the database. Cloud Firestore is a NoSQL database, my go-to solution when NoSQL works. And recently, well, kind of recently, Firebase also released their own SQL solution, which is called Data Connect. And I have also tried that in one of my apps, Bunny Search. And this year I gave a talk at FlutterCon Europe. I will leave a link here and also in the description to this video if you're interested to check it out and how it works in a real application. So you can do that. It's almost 2026 and you can't just record a video about software development and not mention AI. So another service from Firebase that I use and love a lot is Firebase AI SDK. And Firebase AI SDK is a lifesaver if you want generative AI functionality in your client application without exposing sensitive API keys and also without spinning up your own server or serverless functions. It's literally a plug-and-play solution. You can wire it up with just a couple of lines of code. It supports multimodality, and it's great both for experimentation but also for production. And obviously, it works with Gemini models. And if you're using it in production, you can and should secure it with Firebase App Check. And Firebase App Check is another service that uses app or device attestation to validate requests coming from your application to your Firebase services. And in my top 3 of Firebase services would be Firebase Remote Config. I'd say just for the utility of it because I use it extensively for dynamic prompting, feature flagging, A/B testing, and yeah, it's just super useful and very convenient. Now let's move on to the next service. Back in the day, I had the traumatic experience of implementing in-app purchases flows without any third-party SDKs, but thankfully a couple of years ago, I found RevenueCat and never looked back. Aside from the unavoidable pain of store setup, actual implementation of in-app purchases takes literally just a couple of lines of code and it works like magic. Santa, tell me if you're really there. And another feature that I really like from RevenueCat is their no-code payables. I've been using them in some of my apps, and I plan to use them in more of my apps. And yeah, it's basically just drag and drop solution, which also supports all of your packages, all of your offerings. It's very easy to set up. You do it in this interface, click publish, and it's available from your client code. It's amazing. And it's very easy to A/B test, including like with Firebase, remote config, and things like that, different kind of paywalls and how they convert. I also recently tried their generate paywall from your App Store page feature. Still not perfect, but it's impressive, and I think it's only going to become better. There's also a lot of experimentation and optimization functionality available, and I haven't used it all yet, but I definitely plan to experiment a lot in 2026, so I'll get back to you with my experience after that. There are also competitors like Adapty and Superwall, but same as with Firebase, I have not found the need to migrate, so for me it's RevenueCat. Although I have noticed a new feature, I don't know if it's new or not, but a feature that Adaptive provides is onboardings, also remote no-code onboardings. I'm interested in how that works, so maybe I will try it out someday, or maybe I will just wait until RevenueCat offers this solution too, which I hope they will. Also worth mentioning that RevenueCat integrates nicely with Firebase authentication and also with Firebase Firestore, Cloud Firestore, via Firebase extensions. The next thing I absolutely hate after in-app purchases is third-party sign-in. All of my apps currently use anonymous Firebase authentication, but I've implemented Google, Apple, Facebook, whatnot signing for clients also back in the day, and I still remember all of the edge cases, the bug issues, and things breaking randomly when you least expect it and least want it. Once bitten and twice shy, I keep my distance. But recently I decided it's time to implement proper authentication in some of my apps, mostly for myself so that my data would survive the countless uninstall cycle during development. That's when I remembered about an SDK that I've heard about on Twitter or X called Fluo. I hope that's the correct pronunciation of the name. Fluo is a Flutter SDK that abstracts away the third-party authentication setup, and it literally took me like 10 minutes to have a fully functioning Google sign-in, Apple sign-in with a customized UI, and I just couldn't believe it. It's a huge time saver. I'm super happy I found it. You might think I'm lazy, but honestly, I don't want to spend any time setting up things like authentication when I could be spending that time on building shiny new features. Plus, it integrates with Firebase, which is a big win for me. Speaking of features, another SDK that I have recently added to one of my apps and plan to add to all of my apps soon is UserOrient. UserOrient is a feature voting SDK which allows users to upload features that they're interested in, suggest new ones, and track their progress. And the setup literally takes just a couple of minutes and you have the whole functionality out of the box. It removes the friction of having users write emails because everything happens inside the app. It's also one of the easiest ways to communicate with the users and build trust around product evolution. I'm super happy when I get new feature suggestions or upvotes on the existing features, so yeah, highly recommend adding it to your apps if you're interested in communicating with your users. So yeah, these are the 4 plug-and-play SDKs that I use in my apps, some of them extensively, some of them recently, but so far I've been happy with all of them and I can highly recommend you trying them out. And another important thing is that they all offer generous free tiers and you can get started right away without any payments. And let me know in the comments if you want to know more about the tools that I use, including for design and marketing. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and see you in the next one.